Much po for coming here. Para po sa inyong opening statement, sakaling mahalal kayo bilang pangalawang Pangulo ng Bansa, paano po makakatulong sa pag-aano ng Pilipinas sa mga krisis na kinakarap nito ngayon? Meron po kayong 5 minutes, 5 minuto para sagutin ang tanong.
Good morning, Ms. Hontiveros. Good morning, Ms. Webb and Ricky. Isang magandang umaga po sa inyong lahat. Ako po si Manny S.D. Lopez, kandidato ng Workers and Peasants Party, also known as the Labor Party Philippines. Kami po sa Labor Party ay naglunsad ng 10-point socio-economic development and political reform agenda upang bigyan tugon ang iba't ibang mga challenges and issues na hinaharap at haharapin pa ng sambayan ng Pilipino sa mga darating na taon. Tayo po ay humaharap ngayon sa isang pandemya na wala pang kasiguraduhan kung kailan po ito matatapos. Ngayon po, ang pinakamalaking suliranin ng ating sambayanan ay ang economic recovery. Matagal na pong naghihirap ang mga Pilipino at mas marami pang naghihirap. Kaya't kami po ay maglulungsad ng isang comprehensive economic recovery program na bibigyan ng solusyon ang kahirapan, ang kakulangan at ang mga iba't ibang suliranin ng sambayan ng Pilipino.
Let's talk about MSMEs, ang sinasabi pong driving force for economic recovery. Ang MSMEs po dito sa ating bansa comprise over 90% or over 90% of the businesses here in the country. Ano ho ang nakikita ninyong programa para po matulungan at maprotektahan ang mga MSMEs dito po sa bansa?
Definitely, ang MSMEs po represent the most important component of our national economy. At tama po kayo, they represent more than 90% of the business enterprises. And they also represent a big percentage of our fiscal revenues, as well as they contribute a lot to our national employment. And so kailangan po talaga ang focus natin ay palakasin natin ang MSMEs at ang ating farming sector and among others. Ngayon po, being an economist, ako po ay nag-conceptualize ng isang comprehensive 3-point strategy upang bigyan tugon ang mga hinaharap na challenges ng mga micro, small, and medium-scale enterprises. And this is composed of, number one, a new omnibus investment code to, improve the way we do business in this country, to improve the productivity of our business enterprises, of our industries, and of our workers, through collaborative measures. And with that, I think we will be able to improve the comparative advantage or competitive advantage of the business scenario. With that, makaka-attract po tayo ng mas maraming investors, tayo po ay makaka-create ng mas maraming trabaho and opportunities across the regions. And second po, kailangan po natin ng isang simplified and I would say a bankruptcy law that is that could be easily be used as a legal framework of struggling firms na hindi kayang magbayad ng mga experts sa bankruptcy law. Ang isa pong simplified bankruptcy law will be made available to struggling firms and individuals so they will be able to reorganize and continue on with their business with certain leeway, para sila ay makabalik at makatayo muli at maka-recover from the impact of the pandemic. Dahil marami naman po dito sa mga MSMEs na ito ay na-bankrupt or malapit na ma-bankrupt because of, the protocol that we have to observe. Marami po dyan ay kailangan isara for, higher reasons, including public health and safety. So, pag meron po tayong legal framework na simple and that could easily be used to, file for, say, a reprieve, then we will have to amend the FRIA law or the Insolvency Act that is more geared for bigger business enterprises. And lastly po, ako po ay nag-advocate ng loan programs designed for struggling firms and individuals. At ito po will be a loan program that will allow struggling firms and business enterprises and individuals para maka-access sa ating mga loan programs. Dahil available naman po ang pera, dahil ito ay provided for ng Bayanihan Act 1 and 2. However, the billions are just lying out there because, hindi ma-access because of the stringent requirements of the commercial banks, no? So kung struggling firm ka, nalulugi ka, parang napakahirap po or it's almost impossible actually to access loans. Now, but with a government guarantee, maari pong mas malawak ang mga business firms at mga individual na nahihirapan ngayon na maka-access ng loans. And we can course this through the commercial banking system with a government guarantee para walang palakasan. No? At of course, kailangan ang interest mababa with easy terms. So these three components put together will be able to help MSMEs in general. And when these MSMEs, our farming sector, as well as our professionals and individuals are able to recover, then the broader national economy will be able to recover.
We'll have more questions for you, Mr. Lopez. Sa pagbabalik po ng COMELEC, KBP Pilipinas Forum, tatalakayin naman natin ang usapin sa kahirapan.
Exodo, Kabanata 18, versikulo 21. Ngunit pumili ka ng mga taong may kakayahan, may takot sa Diyos, mapagkakatiwalaan, at di masusuhulan. Gawin mo silang tagapangasiwa sa libo-libo, daan-daan, 5-50, at 10-10.
Ang mabuting balita ay hatid sa inyo ng MX3.
Sa darating na halalan, huwag niyo akong kalimutan!
Sa darating na halalan, huwag niyo kalimutan.
Sa darating na halalan, huwag niyo akong kalimutan.
Sa darating na halalan, huwag niyo akong kalimutan!
Sa boto mo, apektado ang buong bayan. Huwag natin silang kalimutan. A reminder from the ASC, Ad Foundation, the KBP, and this network.
Sa loob ng maraming taon, ang ABS-CBN News at ang pamilyang Pilipino magkatwang sa pagpapatrol sa bayan. At ngayong halalan 2022, andito tayo muli para sa isa't isa. Ngayong May 9 at 10, buong puwersa tayong maglilingkod mula sa iba't ibang sulok ng bansa. Tutukan ang mga pinakamaiinit na balita online sa live streaming ng ating marathon coverage sa ABS-CBN News YouTube channel at sa abscbnnews.com. Tuloy-tuloy din ang pagpapatrol sa telebisyon, sa teleradyo, ANC, a Pamilya Channel, A to Z, at TFC. Isang pamilya tayong magbabantay sa tuloy-tuloy na pagbabalita, umaga hanggang gabi. Halalan 2022, the ABS-CBN News Special Coverage.
Iyon ang pinaka-importante, no? Ang pagpapahalaga sa buhay. Kapag merong pagpapahalaga sa buhay, lahat ng magiging aksyon niya para sa ikabubuti nga ng nakakarami. Ako si Norman Magbiop, isa akong manggagamot. Pangarap ko sa Pilipinas, walang namamatay na hindi man lang nakita ng isang doktor or nurse. Boboto tayo para sa future, no? So, mag-set ng criteria, maging mapanuri kung papasa ba dun sa criteria na yon, piliin kung sino yung pumasa at iboto. At sana manalo yung karapat-dapat. Importante na merong integridad yung iboboto natin. Hindi lang basta leader yun servants, no? So servant leaders yun. Hindi sila yung pinagsisilbihan, no? Sila yung nagsisilbi para sa bayan.
Mabubuting katangian ng Pilipino. Gabay natin sa pagboto.
This week on Cityscape, we're bringing you a slice of all the latest happenings around the metro. We've got updates on how you might be able to travel to a Southeast Asian neighbor. The scoop on the newest hotel to hit the metro. Raising a glass to the perfect summer drink. Catch all these and more on a brand new episode of Cityscape only here on ANC.
Mga balitang hume-headline.
Makinig sa mga panayam dahil tala ang 5.6 GDP.
Kinakalap ng mga patrol ng Pilipino mula Luzon.
Ako po si Tony Velasquez. At ako si Johnson Marabat.
Pina-trending ng netizen headline sa lagay ng panahon.
Visayas
Sa Visayas.
at Mindanao.
Yes, mga notisya sa Mindanao.
Ibabalita sa Headline Pilipinas. Lunes hanggang Biyernes alas 12 ng tanghali sa nag-iisang teleradyo.
The latest news and information you get on radio, TV, and the internet are now in the ABS-CBN Radio Service app. Stream anytime, anywhere with DZMM Radio Patrol. Plus different podcast content from ABS-CBN News and the ABS-CBN News channel. Download the ABS-CBN Radio Service app now. Available on Google Play Store and Apple App Store.
Kayo ay nanonood ng COMELEC KBP Forum 2022. Kasama rin natin si Vice Presidential Candidate Manny Lopez at sa ating panel, CNN Philippine Senior Anchor Pinky Webb at Radio Mindanao Network PCXL 558 News Anchor Ricky Rosales. Pinky.
Okay, sa unang 6 na buwan noong 2001, pumalo po sa 23.7% yung ating poverty rate sa bansa, Mr. Lopez. Marami po yung nasadlak sa kahirapan dahil nga na rin sa lockdowns bunsod ng pandemya. Ang tanong po, ano ba ang dapat gawin para maabot yung tinatawag na zero extreme poverty rate target ng bansa sa taong 2040?
Ako po ay nagmumungkahi ng bagong economics. We should shift from Keynesian macroeconomic principles that allows for the trickle-down effect sa ating mga kababayan in terms of benefits, no? Ano man ang public policy. Kailangan po embrace natin ngayon ang tinatawag nating welfare economics. Isa pong economic concept na bibigyan ng prioridad ang mga pangangailangan ng Pilipino. At yan po ay very basic. The basic needs ng ating mga kababayan, which is food, healthcare, education, among others. At among the sectors na kailangan pong i-prioritize dyan ay ang agrikultura sapagkat karamihan po ng ating mga mamamayan ay reliant sa agriculture. Kaya yan po ay bigyan natin ng mas magandang mga solusyon, hindi lang budgetary allocation, hindi lang po puro bigay na libre. Kung hindi, i-address natin scientifically yung mga suliranin, yung mga challenges ng ating agricultural sector. And among those that needs to be addressed immediately ay ang sourcing nila ng capital. At yung pong mga production inputs, mataas na binhi, mataas na presyo ng fertilizer, kakulangan sa infrastruktura, yan po ang bigyan natin ng prioridad. Using the build funds na naka-prioritize o naka-allocate sa mga flagship projects. In that way, yung pong benepisyo ay direktamenteng mapupunta sa mga kababayan natin na matagal nang naghihirap ngayong panahon ng pandemya.
I think ginong...
I thought you were going to bring... Wait.
Ito. Sige, pakita na natin. Okay, sorry. So may binigay ho kasi sa amin si Mr. Lopez. Kayo na po ang paliwanag nito. Ito po ay 100,000, no? Dito nakasulat 100,000. What is this? What does this symbolize, sir?
Malaki po ang ibig sabihin niyan, dalawang aspeto po, ano? Number one, ang kahirapan po na dinadanas ng ating maraming kababayan ay immediately mabibigyan ng solusyon kung sila ay magkakaroon ng access sa low-interest loans with easy terms. Ngayon po, meron naman inallocate ang ating mga mambabatas sa Bayanihan 1 and 2 for economic recovery. Yan pong salaping yan ay pwedeng gamitin as a guarantee system upang yung pong lending rates ng mga bangko ay bumaba sapagkat alam niyo po, Miss Pinky and Miss Pia, hindi ba pag kayo ay bumili ng kahit na anong bagay at hindi kayo na-approve sa financing, kung meron po kayong guarantor, ay ina-approvehan kayo. In the same manner, ganyan po ang konsepto na gusto nating gamitin, no, upang magkaroon ng access, makautang ang mga Pilipino na naghihirap ngayon. Sapagkat kung ito pong salapi na binibigyan nating halaga ngayon dito sa ating pamphlet na ito, sa ating leaflet na ito, na every Pilipino, bawat Pilipino ay pwedeng umutang hanggang 100,000, direktamente po magagamit nila ang salaping yan upang sa kanilang bigyan ng solusyon, ang kanilang mga iba't ibang pangangailangan.
And that will revive the economy.
And that will revive the economy.
Yeah. But do we have money for that? Let's say you do become VP and let's say we are able to do this program. Hindi maubusan ng pera ang gobyerno.
A guarantee system po ito, no? Meron po tayong sufficient billions that is lying around in DBP and the Land Bank na pwedeng gamitin as a guarantee fund to lower the lending standards para mas maraming makautang, including yung mga struggling MSMEs, yung mga struggling na mga individuals and professionals na nahirapan sapagkat nagkaroon tayo ng maraming lockdowns, maraming nalugi. So with this microloan program na gusto ko pong ipatupad, no, ito po ay direktamenteng makakatulong sa ating mamamayan.
Kanina nga, yung unang sulyap natin, kala natin may bagong bill, ano? Pero very quickly, sir, yes or no lang po, itong welfare economics na sinasabi po ninyo, hindi po kasama doon, hindi po kayo pabor doon sa conditional cash transfer.
Yung
very quickly, sir, one sentence.
Hindi po ako masyadong kumbinsido doon.
Yeah.
Sorry.
Not a good idea, you're saying. Ricky?
Ginoong Manny, gusto rin namin pong malaman ang plano ninyo para sa mga OFWs. Siyempre, kamakailan po ay tila nagkakagulo itong ilang ahensya ng gobyerno natin pagdating sa Department of Migrant Workers. So ano pong plano ninyo if you win, Vice President Ginoong Lopez? How will you attract yung mga OFWs na dito pumunta sa atin to work? At paano pararamihin ang trabaho dito for them?
Yung pong 10-point socio-economic development and political reform agenda na aming inulungsad, yan po ay magbibigay ng kumpletong solusyon sa mga suliranin na ating na-identify during our engagement with the different academies, with the different interest groups, and yung iba't iba pong mga NGOs. nandyan po sa aking website at www.manny.sdlopez.com. Nandyan po ang detalye. Yan po ay, it consists of people empowerment, it consists of, quality education. At ang isang pinaka-gist po nito ay isang comprehensive economic recovery program with a corresponding integrated agro-industrial resource management development
And you're saying, sir,
program.
that is what will bring Filipinos home?
Back home.
Para hindi
yes.
na ayaw na nilang, wala na may gustong magtrabaho sa abroad.
Opo. Marami pong siguro mananatili rito kung meron trabahong mabuti dito. Ngayon po, kung wala naman trabaho, talagang sila ay magsisikap upang mabigyan ng, income ang kanilang mga pamilya. So, that will be, something...
If implemented, Ginong Lopez, how soon? Ito ay may ilatag ng maganda. At
This will be a generational, time frame, sapagkat alam niyo po, ang ating mga suliranin naman ay systemic and cultural. Hindi po yan na mabibigyan ng solusyon in one administration. At lalong-lalong hindi po mabibigyan ng solusyon yan kung ang mga iluluklok nyo ay yung mga traditional politicians na pareho pa rin ang kanilang gagawin, kapareho pa rin ang mga policy programs na hindi talaga, bibigyan ng solusyon yung mga systemic ills na ating hinaharap. At siya rin na mga rason why this country is where it is. No? Kaya po, kung malaki pong pagkakataon itong nabigay nyo sa amin, na magbigay ng ibang panukala na talagang magbibigay tugon sa mga suliranin ng ating bansa.
Ito po ang COMELEC KBP Pilipinas Forum 2022. Pag-usapan natin ang takbo ng edukasyon sa bansa at ang tugon sa pandemya na tumama sa buong mundo. Sa pagbabalik po.
Exodus 18:21. But you choose from the people capable men, God-fearing men, men of truth, those who hate bribes, and put them over the people as rulers of thousands, rulers of hundreds, rulers of 50s, and rulers of 10s.
Ang mabuting balita ay hatid sa inyo ng MX3.
Sa darating na halalan, huwag niyo akong kalimutan!
Sa darating na halalan, huwag niyo kalimutan.
Sa darating na halalan, huwag niyo akong kalimutan.
Sa darating na halalan, huwag niyo akong kalimutan!
Sa boto mo, apektado ang buong bayan. Huwag natin silang kalimutan. A reminder from the ASC and Foundation, the KBP, and this network.
When it comes to driving fast and looking good on the road, the luxury sports car is king. These certainly deserve a spot in any executive's garage. This week on Rev, we take a look at 3 stylish speedsters that exemplify what this segment is all about. From exceptional Japanese workmanship, timeless Italian styling, and forward British innovation, fasten your seatbelts, this one's all about speed and style. Watch Rev, only here on ANC.
Ngayong halalan 2022, andito tayo kasama ang mga katuwang sa paglilingkod at pagbabantay at paghahatid ng mga pinakahuling pangyayari sa ating bayan. Andito ang bagong henerasyon ng mas mapanuring mga kabataan. Andito ang mga kasama sa pagtataguyod ng maunlad na kabuhayan. Andito ang mga pinagkakatiwalaan sa pagbabantay ng kaayusan. Andito ang mga kasamahan sa paghahatid ng tamang impormasyon sa bawat tahanan. Andito tayo sa mas pinalakas na sama-samang paglilingkod ngayong halalan 2022. sa ating pagtutulungan
Bilang tulong po sa ating mga frontliners, antigen kit na malaking tulong po ito.
at pagkakaisa bilang isang pamilyang Pilipino.
Dapat mangibabaw po ang kapakanan ng pamilyang Pilipino.
Sama-sama tayong aangat.
Hindi lang balita, kundi yung serbisyo publiko.
Kasama ang boses na pinagkakatiwalaan ng bayan, Kabayang Noli de Castro.
Mga hirap pa rin sa pandemya, bibigyan natin ng ayuda ngayon pamagitan ng ating palatuntunan.
Ang haligi sa pagbabalita, impormasyon at serbisyo publiko. Kabayan! Mula Lunes hanggang Biyernes alas 8 ng umaga sa nag-iisang teleradyo.
All right, we're back.
Join David Celdran.
We were lucky to have filmed in South America and Europe, plus some new ones now that destinations in the Philippines are starting to open up.
Marie Lozano. And Martin Rivera.
Expect the unexpected as we talk to some of your favorite people and turn their long stories into short stories.
As all new episodes of Executive Class, Cityscape, and LSS The Martin Rivera Show return on a new time slot. Only here on ANC.
The biggest news, the most compelling stories, and issues that matter to you. Top Story, Monday to Saturday at 5 p.m. here on ANC. Take the lead even when on the go. Keep abreast of the latest news and information with the ABS-CBN News app. Receive news alerts, audio stream DZMM, and customize your news feed. All these and more with the ABS-CBN News app. Download the ABS-CBN News app now. Available on Google Play Store and the App Store. Protect yourself during an earthquake. Duck, cover, and hold. Stay away from windows, light fixtures, or furniture that may fall on you. Get under a sturdy table and hold on until the shaking stops. If you're outdoors, stay away from trees, electrical wires and poles, and other structures that may collapse. If you're driving, pull over to a shoulder and don't attempt to cross a bridge or overpass. When in a coastal area, move quickly to higher ground. Monitor the news. Arm yourself with information. A friendly reminder from ANC.
So, question. Kayo'y nanonood ng COMELEC KBP Forum 2022. Kasama rin natin Vice Presidential Candidate Manny Lopez, ang aking co-panelists, Ricky Rosales and Tinky Webb. Ricky.
Lopez, nangako po ang Department of Education noong January na magpapalabas sila ng mas pinabuting bersyon itong ating K-12 sa basic education curriculum. And syempre, yan ho ay matapos ipanawagan noon ng Alliance of Concerned Teachers na dapat tugunan yung mga butas dito sa programang ito. 10 years after ho yan, 2012-2013, ang yan ay ipatupad. Sa inyo ho bang assessment, Ginoong Lopez, matagumpay ito? At kung may mga dapat baguhin, ano po ang mga dapat i-reforma sa K-12?
Well, ang Labor Party Philippines po, and based on my 10-point socio-economic development and political reform agenda, quality education towards cultural excellence is one of our focus. No? So, yan po, gaya ng nasabi ko kanina, it's not only a matter of budget allocation, but it's a matter of coming out with the right innovations, no? With the right approaches, methodologies, upang ma-improve natin ang ating quality of education. Ngayon po, ang K-12 program, palagay ko, okay naman yan eh. kasi binase yan sa international standards. Ang problema ho siguro dun sa implementation. You know, in every good plan, there has to be a corresponding good, efficient, and effective implementation. Sa palagay ko po, dun nagkukulang ang ating K-12 program. Pag na-improve po siguro yan, and with the corresponding improvements in the implementation and the leadership of DepEd, then I think magiging mahusay po ang resulta. But at this point in time, para masagot ko yung sa inyo, siguro ho, marami nagko-complain So there must be something wrong.
May isa lang ang follow-up, Ginoong Lopez, yung binabagit yung cultural excellence. Can you a bit expound on this at magbigay ng kahit isa o dalawang halimbawa how to do this? Kasi it seems like ang laki nung paano natin gagawin yung cultural excellence.
Bakit ko po nasabi, sagutin ko po kayo, bakit ko po nasabi na kailangan natin ng cultural excellence? Yung pong mga bata rito, parang hindi na sila nananaginip or nag-aspire na maging globally competitive, na maging pinakamagaling sa buong mundo. Nung pong kapanahunan namin, nananaginip pa po kami at nag-aspire pa po kami na maging pinakamagaling sa Asia or if not in the world. No? Ganyan po dapat ang thinking ng ating kabataan. Nawawala na po yan. Ang parang nagiging subservient na tayo in our own thought and in our own actions. So we have to change that. And we can do that through quality education.
Well, speaking of education, Ms. Lopez, itong problema natin sa internet connection, no? Lalo na't ngayon, we have face-to-face classes and then, well, perhaps by next school year, August, baka mag-hybrid, no? Face-to-face and, I'm sorry, online ngayon. Tapos mag-hybrid sa next school year, no? Online plus face-to-face. What do we need to do? What is it in your 10-point agenda that you can do to improve internet connection?
Malaki pong usapan yan Ang rollout po ng improvement ng ating online facilities, it will take years, no? Pero there are certain approaches, strategies, if you are, IT literate, no? Na mabibigyan ng better quality education through, I would say, digital, technologies. Mura na lang po ngayon ng ang USB So kung bawat, estudyante ay may complete curriculum in one USB, then that will suffice. That will help them. At yung testing program, pwede po, yung pag-test na examinations, pwede pong gawin online yan. Marami pong approaches Kaya lang parang medyo deficient tayo when it comes to, IT expertise. Doon nga po sa DICT, balita ko, yung naging pinuno doon hindi masyadong IT literate. So how could you expect improvements?
Secretary Greg Onasan?
Sino bang mga naging...
Greg Onasan?
Ang alam ko po...
yung naging pinuno, sabi nyo kasi.
Siguro po, baka siya ngayon. Pero ang alam ko
siya
po...
ngayon o naging pinuno?
Mahusay naman yun, Pero inadmit po ka sa akin ni Secretary Eli Rio nung tinanong ko siya. Because, when this pandemic started, even before it was made publicly, tumakbo na po ako dyan kay Secretary Eli Rio, sa mga aking kaibigan sa DILG, sa aking mga kaibigan sa UP Medical and Scientific Community. I was warning, I was shouting out loud in my FB account, na this pandemic is for real and we have to do something about it, to mitigate its impact on our society. So, pinuntahan ko po yan at narinig ko po kasi yung mga hearings sa Congress and I was alarmed. Sabi ko, we have to do something because nung pinakikinggan ko po yung congressional hearing, yung mga resource speakers, they did not know what to do, in this crisis. But this is not unique to us. Even European countries and even the US had that same problem. But, when the IATF tapped on the UP medical and scientific community, you can take notice, nagkaroon na improvements. Kasi nung mga generals lang, puro general problem ang kanyang mga solusyon, Puro mga lockdown, puro mga So, and, pandemic, you have to look at this thing in a holistic manner, in a very intelligent, efficient, and effective manner. And we can do this through private, public collaboration and tapping on the best minds in the country. You know, if you tap the less than best minds, then you get less than effective solutions.
So let's talk about the pandemic. Vaccinations, sir, 67.9 million so far have been vaccinated. Let's put it at 68 million. Pero yung boosters, 13 million pa lang po ang nagpa-booster shots. Sa harap po ng banta ng subvariants ng Omicron, yung BA.2.12, na nakitaan na po sa isang turista doon po sa norte, sa Baguio. Ano ho pa, what do you think government should do? What else should government do to encourage people to get boosted?
I'm a veteran disaster planning and management advocate for the longest time, no? And microbiological hazard is just one of the many potential disasters that we will be facing now and in the future. Now, with regard to pandemic management, with regard to this pandemic, we have proposed a science-based, cost-effective, and pragmatic approach, no, in managing the COVID-19 pandemic, as well as the variants that will be coming out. And I think my best strategy is get people informed how, the viruses would actually affect us. We have to understand the viral life cycle. Kasi kung alam mo yung kalaban mo, alam mong gagawin mo from an individual to a community level approach. No? So that's the first thing that we have to do. Education, information. Secondly, our policymakers should be experts in their own right. 2.5 years na ngayon, kailangan alam na nila kung anong virus, yung mga checkpoint na titignan ng pulis, ano pong i-stopin ka, titignan nila kung may virus din o wala. That's something that is, a waste of time. But when it comes to the protocol, I think we have to be more effective and efficient. We could not totally go for public health and safety and sacrificing the economy. There has to be a balance.
So you're saying, sir, that we just need to live with the virus and figure things out along the way, which is what we're doing right now. But at the same time, sir, I also want to ask very quickly, dahil pinag-uusapan education and information, which for which we need the internet for better connectivity and even free Wi-Fi access. Very quickly, sir, what can you do about this? Is this something that you would like to work on?
Yes, I think we have to deal with the industry leaders. No, we have to effect some changes in the national policy as far as rolling out our IT programs more efficiently. It will take maybe 2 weeks of your program for us to discuss every detail. But I'm willing to do that.
Sa tayo, Ginoong Lopez, sa healthcare system, anong plano ninyo sa mga healthcare workers, pagpapalakas ng hospitals, para mapalakas yung healthcare system?
Meron po tayong short-term, medium-term, and long-term approach. I'll start with the long-term. We need more doctors, and we need to keep them here. No, healthcare workers. And how can we do that? We should provide scholarships. Mahal kasi magpa-doktor. Ako nga, anak ko, gusto niya magdoktora. Pero sa US kasi, I can't afford it. Sabi ko, umuwi dito. So if we are able to provide scholarships to have more doctors, nurses, and other medical practitioners, that would be the long-term solution. When it comes to hospitals, so the infrastructure, alam niyo po, yung pagpapagawa ng hospital, isang component lang yan. You need to equip it, you need to have systems and procedures in place, you need the expertise. No? So all of these things, we have to, plan it well. And you need the management expert po to do that. At nagbo-volunteer po ako to help the Filipino people realize this dream.
Sa aming pagbabalik, pag-usapan po natin ang mga reforma sa politika. Ito ang COMELEC KBP Pilipinas Forum 2022.
Exodo, Kabanata 18, Versikulo 21. Ngunit pumili ka ng mga taong may kakayahan, may takot sa Diyos, mapagkakatiwalaan, at di masusuhulan. Gawin mo silang tagapangasiwa sa libo-libo, daan-daan, 50-50, at 10-10.
Ang mabuting balita ay hatid sa inyo ng MX3.
Sa darating na halalan, niyo akong kalimutan!
Sa darating na halalan, huwag niyo kalimutan.
Sa darating na halalan, huwag niyo akong kalimutan.
Sa darating na halalan, huwag niyo akong kalimutan.
Sa boto mo, apektado ang buong bayan. Huwag natin silang kalimutan. A reminder from the ASC and Foundation, the KBP, and this network.
Kailangan ng isang leader ay nakasentro doon sa tunay na paglilingkod para sa interes talaga ng nakararami. Ako si Michael Andrada, isa akong guro at mananaliksik mula sa Universidad ng Pilipinas. Nung bata ako, sumakay ako ng jeep, tapos may nakasabay ako ng mga estudyante. Tapos pagkapasok nila, ang luwag-luwag talaga ng jeep. Pagpasok nila ay nagkandong sila. Automatic na. Tapos nagbayad sila ng pamasahe para sa isang tao. Kaya kapag tinatanong ako ng mga ganito, para kanino ka boboto. Bumoboto ako para din sa mga marginalized sector, ang katutubo, sa mga walang tinig, hindi makaboto, at walang boses. Pangarap ko talaga merong tunay na kalayaan, tunay na pagbabago sa Pilipinas, no? Merong patas na karapatan at mas maginhawa ang mga mamamayan.
Mabubuting katangian ng Pilipino. Gabay natin sa pagboto.
In this episode, we hit the road with the sun up and the top down in two of the most enjoyable and affordable convertibles ever made. Then we'll capture those colorful summer moments in the beach with one of the most iconic cameras of all time. And check out some of the latest timepieces for serious water sports enthusiasts and sophisticated global travelers.
Gumising na at tutukan ang mga isyong kinakaharap ng taong bayan.
Alamin natin kung sino ang mga kandidato natin.
Mga maiinit at napapanahong usaping kailangang pagtuunan ng pansin.
Dapat hindi nagbabago-bago dun sa posisyon dun sa mga issue.
Ang hatid ng ating mga kakulitan sa morning. Gary Buenafe.
Dapat nagkakaroon ng idea ang taong bayan.
At Tony Velasquez.
Mahalaga malaman natin kung tugma ba
Sa On The Spot. Lunes hanggang Biyernes alas 9 ng umaga sa nag-iisang Teleradyo.
A record 67 million voters are registered for what has been deemed one of the most pivotal elections in the country's history. In the continued shadow of the pandemic, and after a heated and polarizing campaign, on May 9th, ANC will be there as precincts open until the final ballots are tabulated, keeping watch as the nation decides its future. Halalan 2022, the ANC coverage.
Our numbers are already up there. And to engage in challenging debates and interviews will only pull your numbers down. Is that your strategy? Is that your plan? What do you tell then those people who don't have the same resources as you have to evade arrest? How can you lead the country when you can't or couldn't even keep the party together? Why should there be a place for you still? You said it yourself. You've had 3 terms.
Your no-nonsense noontime news fix on ANC. Dateline Philippines with Carmina Constantino. Weekdays at 12 noon. Only on ANC. The biggest news. The most compelling stories. And issues that matter to you. Top Story, Monday to Saturday at 5 p.m. Here on ANC.
As we speak, there are existing policies about compressed work week. And one of the key things that employers can do is essentially to have a dialogue with their workers. Every time that a policy is imposed from above, without actually having the benefit of a widespread consultation and a careful study, would just compound the problems for us. A sincere, a meaningful dialogue with workers would always lead to an amicable settlement, an amicable solution.
Ensure your safety after an earthquake. Be prepared for aftershocks. Don't enter buildings until they're declared safe by experts. Check yourself and others for injuries. Check your plumbing for leaks. Check electrical lines throughout the house. Watch out for fires, fire hazards, or spilled chemicals. Monitor the news. Arm yourself with information. A friendly reminder from ANC.
Ito po ang COMELEC KBP Pilipinas Forum 2022. Nakasala ngayon sa ating panel interview si Vice Presidential Candidate Manny Lopez. Kasama ko pa rin sina Pinky Webb and Ricky Rosales. Sa huling bahagi ng ating forum, sasagutin ng ating kandidato ang mga usaping politikal at sistema ng pamamahala sa bansa. Mr. Lopez, let's talk about taxes, no? How can you help, no, para mapalakas yung collection ng buwis? What can we do about, tax avoidance, yung mga ayaw magbayad or mag-file?
Opo, on the matter of fiscal management po, talagang kailangan unahin natin ma-improve ang ating tax collection. And there's a two-pronged approach dyan po. One is to embrace, digitalization or computerization of our systems of collection. And secondly, yung pong talagang habitual na nag-a-avoid ng taxes, kailangan po ma-penalize yan. So these two approach, mabibigyan pong tugon yan with simple policy measures and effective implementation. On the other side of the coin, kailangan po na every tax spent, collected and spent, should be spent wisely. Sapagkat, alam niyo po, mahirap ang situation ngayon, with this economic, slowdown. Correspondingly, ang tax base po natin, ang tax na marirealize ng gobyerno ay mas mababa at mas malaki naman ang ating mga gastusin, no? Kaya kailangan po hindi na po pwede yung dating gawa, no, ng ating mga pamahalaan. Kailangan po every peso collected in the form of taxes should be spent wisely. And kung madadagdagan ko lang po, yun pong mga politicians na nagpapangako ng bilyon-bilyon, hindi po maari yun. Yan po ay sinasabi nila para perhaps para sila ay inyong iboto. Ang magiging realidad po ay kailangan tayo ng mag-belt tightening, austerity program. Yun po ang magiging realistic na approach natin.
Sir, very quickly lang po, no? So, di ba, we have, many are employed and therefore withheld na yung taxes, no, sa kanilang income. And then there are some people who say, no, but then why do we need to file the ITR? And then if we don't file the ITR, is that something that needs to be fixed or tama yun? What is the correct system ba talaga?
In a regular performing economy, kailangan po talaga yun, no? Yung procedure na yun. But in an economic slowdown na halos wala ka ng talagang income, then perhaps there should be some leeway. Pero ang importante ho dito, tax compliance. Yun po ang kailangan nating unahin. Tax compliance para mas maging responsibilidad din, mas responsible ang ating mga mamamayan.
Okay,
whether it's a pandemic or not.
Nananawagan po kayo ng ilang pagbabago sa sistema o kaya struktura ng pamamahala sa ating bansa po through, tama ho ba, a people's initiative?
Correct.
Exactly ano ho ang gusto nyong baguhin?
Number one po, ang number one ko pong advokasya ay maamyendahan ang People's Initiative and Referendum Act sapagkat ito po ang people empowerment measure that will allow ordinary citizens and groups of citizens to launch a people's initiative through a functional law. No? Sapagkat ngayon po, kung maglo-launch ka ng people's initiative, you will need billions. No? Sapagkat napakahirap po na i-satisfy yung mga requirements. For example, yung 10% minimum signature requirements, yung 3% minimum in every legislative district. Mahirap pong i-satisfy yun.
So what you say, sir, ibababa natin yun?
Ibababa po yun at kailangan yung pong implementing rules and guidelines will have to be easier, no? At meron po akong detalyadong programa, plano para dyan,
So
para
from
magkaroon tayo ng functional People's Initiative
So from
law.
10 and 3% to what?
From the 10%, siguro po, mga 5% or lower, kailangan po i-eliminate yung 3% minimum, no? Na makukuha mong botante in every district. Hindi po dapat kasama yon sa ano. At ang pinaka-importante po, yung implementing rules and guidelines, kailangan po, pag nag-launch ka ng People's Initiative, yung pong COMELEC mismo, yun ang istasyon para mag-kolekta ng signatures.
Okay.
No?
Okay.
At yung pong mga barangay, kailangan magkaroon ng at least parang debate. No? Isang pro, a con, in every barangay. Bibigyan nila ng orasyon at schedule, parang mini CNN in every barangay. In that way, we will be able to articulate, our beliefs and our aspirations all the way down to the barangay level. And that is people empowerment.
In form of educating them, obviously.
Yes.
And just very briefly, just one more additional question on political reform. Would you like to see a system where we have where we do not have 10 candidates running for president and 9 for VP? Sobrang dami, hindi po ba?
Yeah, parliamentary system po. Or kung
parliamentary, Okay.
Of the French model. So I think naging tradisyon na natin na magkaroon ng presidente. So I think we should have a president, pero yung structure of government still will be modified to a unicameral form.
Pero naman tayo, Sir Manny, sa ugnayang palabas, foreign policy. Doon sa nakaraang vice presidential debate, you mentioned about independent foreign policy. At meron din kayo nabanggit sa isang panayam na ayon yung malagay tayo sa state of hazard. Opo, what is that independent foreign policy that you have in mind na pwedeng gawin ng Pilipinas?
Sir Ricky, we are living in very interesting times. No? Nagkakaroon ng competition ng emerging superpower and the dominant superpower. So in such instances, magkakaroon po ng inevitable conflict yan. Hopefully, it will not become kinetic sapagkat alam niyo po, ang mga competition ng superpowers ngayon, they are all nuclear armed, And we may be facing a catastrophic scenario when the conflict becomes kinetic. So, how will an independent foreign policy protect us or prevent us from, getting embroiled in a superpower conflict that will make use of nuclear weapons? Independent foreign policy po. Kasi malayo po tayo sa mga areas supposedly of conflict Pero we happen to be in the forefront of the defense of the United States.
Strategically.
Sa economic side, Sir Manny, independent foreign policy in terms of our economics at ekonomiya, binabanggit po kanina, MSMEs, paano yan? Paano natin gagawin yan?
We have to approach it multilaterally. Kailangan po, hindi tayo nakasubscribe lang sa isang dominant economy, either US or China. Ito naman po ngayon ay nangyayari na, because of the globalization. But an independent foreign policy, its impact on our economy will be tremendous if we are able to exploit the opportunities available from all countries, from all 229 sovereign states, Hindi lang po sa China, hindi lang po sa America, hindi lang po sa Japan. And that will also, it will spur competition. So we will get better deals.
Well, President Duterte was talking about that. Isn't that what he was saying? Na wag lang tayo dito sa Amerika, kausapin din natin China. Is that what you mean? Or is that different?
Tama po, in a way, pero wag po masyadong parang lopsided sa China because there are opportunities everywhere. India can offer, certain opportunities that are not available from the perspective of the Chinese.
So, a friend to all.
A friend to all and foe to none. At in that way po, strategically, napaka-importante po, because given the geopolitical dynamics of the Asia-Pacific region, pag tayo po ay independent, hindi tayo nasa forefront ng depensa ng United States, hindi po tayo magiging target ng possible preemptive strike ng China, or defense of the of the Chinese security interests.
Okay, let's also highlight the fact that vice presidential candidate Lopez is the only vice president who does not have a presidential candidate. Ano po? Kayo lang po yun. Kaya nga 10 presidents ang 10 candidate for president, 9 for vice president. Kayo ho ba meron na kayong napupusuan na pangulo?
To be honest po, bilib ako sa kanilang lahat, no? Pero meron po akong yung 5-tier, saka higher tier and lower tier.
Okay. Lower tier meaning yun yung hindi nyo iboboto?
Yung pong lower tier, hindi ko yun, wala na po sa aking listahan
Like
sa radar.
Who? Okay, like who? Who have you eliminated from
Isipin ko pa po muna.
Naisip na ba?
Pero yung pong
Sige
limang, yung pong limang nasa taas, kasi po, isa lang naman ang aking basehan. Tatlo, no? He or she has to be the best, most qualified, and most committed presidential candidate who will pursue the interest and welfare
So
of the
who is
Filipino
that?
people. Isipin ko pa po. I will
Sir, meron na
decide on it
meron na
siguro.
kayong short list. No, let's talk about the short list na lang. Who is on your short list? Come on, sir.
Marami ho nasa ilalim eh.
Nasa ilalim.
Nasa ilalim.
Okay.
Oo.
So we're not talking about yung nangungulo
Meron din
sa
po,
survey.
nasa taas ng survey. Pero karamihan po nasa ilalim.
Come on, sir, share it.
Unfortunately.
Tayo na no, it's interesting eh. It was interesting to hear kanina.
If I were to be honest po, talagang hindi ko pa talaga na kasi one man woman ba yun? Kaya gusto ko po talagang when I decide, talagang fully committed. Because I intend to support, I'm fully committed. That's my main commitment, to fully support the next president of our republic.
All right. We've come to the end of the show. So, kukunin po natin ang inyong closing statement. Mr. Lopez, meron po kayong 2 minuto para doon. But the question here will be, kung ikaw ay mananalo pong vice-presidente, ano po yung mga hakbang na agad mong isusulong para bumuti ang buhay ng mga Pilipino? Although kanina, no, the whole show, we were talking about all of that. You can summarize it very briefly.
First, I'd like to thank Ms. Pinky, Ms. Fia, and Ricky for giving me this opportunity to share my thoughts, my vision, mission, and program of government before the audience of the CNN Philippines. Isa pong malaking and the KBP, Kapisanan ng Broadcasters ng Pilipinas. Isa pong malaking karangalan at pribilehyo na mabigyan kami ng pagkakataon upang ma-share namin ang aming mga panukala. At ang unang-una po na bibigyan kong tugon, should a miracle happen, no, that I be elected as the next Vice President of our beloved Republic, ang unang-una po ay ang amyendahan, ang People's Initiative and Referendum Act. Sapagkat yan po ay magbibigay ng kapangyarihan sa mamamayang Pilipino upang mag-legislate, upang mapalitan ang dating mga dating sistema na nagpapahirap sa sambayan ng Pilipino. And lastly po, kung ako po ay mabigyan ng pagkakataon, I would like to pursue the socio-economic recovery program of our country, and I could do that better if given the chance to work as perhaps as the Secretary of the Department of Trade and Industry.
Okay.
Maraming salamat po sa ibinigay ninyong panahon sa panayam na ito, Vice Presidential Candidate and Economist Manny Lopez.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you so
Maraming
much.
salamat po sa
At
inyo.
yan ang kabuuan ng COMELEC KBP Pilipinas Forum 2022 sa ngalan ni Pinky Webb at Ricky Rosales at Iyo Ontiveros. Bumoto po tayong lahat sa darating na halalan Mayo 9 dahil nakasalalay dito ang ating kinabukasan.
si Sean Yao ng One News. Makakasama natin sa forum na ito ang ating mga panelists na si Ed Lingao ng One News at Cesar Chavez ng DZRH. Ito ang COMELEC KBP Pilipinas Forum 2022. Halalan na. Pero nais pa rin tulungan ng COMELEC itong mga botante natin sa pagpili ng mga tamang kandidato. At ngayon, makakasama natin ang presidential candidate na si Ernesto Abella. Welcome to the forum, Sec.
Thank you, Sean.
Simulan na natin ang forum sa inyong opening statement. Bibigyan namin kayo ng 5 minuto na ilatag ang inyong plataforma. Ang tanong, paano mo iaahon ang Pilipinas sa mga hamon at krisis na hinaharap nito ngayon?
Okay, maraming salamat po. Thank you for the opportunity na makasalamuha kayo, Ed, Cesar, and Sean, of course. No? Ito pong yung tanong nyo, paano ba ang plano natin upang maiahon ang ating mga mamamayan sa kahirapan? Una siguro magsisimula ako sa paniwala ako na ang Pilipinas ay isang bayan na may tawag at tadhana. Mayaman siya, mayaman sa likas na yaman, mayaman sa tao, mayaman sa values. Pero ang laki pa rin talaga ng kanyang ang laki ng agwat between rich and poor, no? According to statistics, may 23 to 26 million na Filipino na below poverty level. And below poverty level means family of 6 receiving 12,000 pesos a month. Below 12,000 pesos a month. At saka, pero sa loob nun, ng 23 to 26 million na iyan, ay meron tayong 12.5 million Filipinos na nakakaranas ng gutom on a regular basis. So yun ang tinatanong mong hirap, no? Paano maiaahon sila? Of course, ang ating concerns are that, our GDP should increase, we should take care of that, no? Pero naniniwala ako na meron talaga tayong dapat na mas malaki yung bottom line natin. More than just GDP, we need people, planet, profit, of course, revenue, and purpose. Na hindi dapat natin malimutan kung ano tayo, kung sino tayo. Balikan natin yung yaman, no? Ang Pilipino, meron tayong mga 10, no, sa Forbes Rich List. At yun sa Forbes Rich List na yan, ay meron din tayong, below that, meron din tayong mga 400,000, nearly 400,000 Filipinos na considered rich. And yet, katulad ng sinasabi ko, meron tayong 23 to 26 million people who are living in poverty. Ngayon, napansin ko rin sa trabaho ko sa DFA, dati ko trabaho sa DFA, na may mga before the pandemic, mga 4,000 to 5,000 people applying for jobs outside. At napansin ko na kapag pinag-aaralan ko, karamihan ito ay mga people with low skills. At mukhang doon yata nagigir yung ating economic policies na magpadala ng tao sa labas. Kasi nga naman, it brings in about $30 billion US dollars a year. So, it readily brings in the cash for us to be able to pay off our debts. Based on our, yung government spending, mga 40 to 60% yata pumupunta sa debt payment. So, kailangan talaga ng inflow. In which case, ang nangyayari, instead of really pushing sana yung mga mega industries, parang mukhang, no, if you look at it, mukhang ang naging economic strategy natin is to send out people, have them send money in. But it doesn't cover every need. So, kung titignan kasi natin lately, for example, not lately, but for the past several months, and of course years, nung kausap ko pa yung mga, nagta-town hall pa kami sa DFA, yung mga kausap natin ng mga Pilipino, kadalasan sa kanila, mga karamihan na nakausap, for some reason or other, kausap namin mga farmers, no? At lagi lang inaangat, sabi, sir, ano ba, paano nyo kami matutulungan, no? Una-una yung pataba pataba, presyo ng pataba, hanggang dyan na. Yung presyo because of RCL, Rice Tariffication Law, hanggang dyan lang. So, anipis talaga ng kanilang, anipis ng kanilang kita. I was talking with a number of farmers just very recently, and sabi nga, ibibenta na nila yung kanilang property. Ang tanong ko, kanino ibibenta? Lugi naman kaya? Sabi na, sir, sa mga land developers. So, there seems to be, may medyo asymmetrical yung natin, yung growth natin. May kumikita sa lugi na marami. So, if there's anything that ang plano talaga natin, Sean, like you asked, is that kung pwede, if you can just make a concrete goal of lifting up these 23 to 26 million people out of poverty and to eradicate yung hunger ng 12.5 million. How do we do that? We do that by making number one, agriculture a mega industry. I know that in the scheme of things, ang baba talaga ng agrikultura. We only spend so much on agriculture. So what we would really like to do is make it a mega industry along with IT, digital, along with education and health. Why? Because these are all part of it. Of course, kaakibat nung sa agriculture is also yung, for example, the domestic tourism. Gusto natin talaga na sumubay sila sa pag-grow ng agriculture. Kasi malaki yan eh. If what we intend to do, Cesar, is to build an agricultural ecosystem. Meaning to say, idikit natin sa research and development with the schools, manufacturing, for example, and then also specialized specialized economic zones where na ilalagay natin, let's say, in very strategic places where there is really hunger, incidence of hunger. Mindanao and the Visayas, meron talagang specialized economic zones doon na kung saan we'd like to be able to address and make sure that our hungry Filipinos are addressed and that there'll be more jobs and there'll be more opportunities. Basically, yun.
All right, we'll just pause for a short break. At sa susunod na parte ng ating forum, aalamin natin kung ano ang plano ng mga kandidato tungkol sa pagtaas ng presyo ng mga bilihin, matinding kahirapan at kawalan ng trabaho. Abangan natin yan sa pagbabalik ng COMELEC KBP Pilipinas Forum 2022.
Exodus 18:21. But you choose from the people capable men, God-fearing men, men of truth, those who hate bribes, and put them over the people as rulers of thousands, rulers of hundreds, rulers of 50s, and rulers of 10s.
Ang mabuting balita ay hatid sa inyo ng MX3.
Sa darating na halalan, huwag niyo akong kalimutan!
Sa darating na halalan, huwag niyo kalimutan.
Sa darating na halalan, huwag niyo akong kalimutan.
Sa darating na halalan, huwag niyo akong kalimutan.
Sa boto mo, apektado ang buong bayan. Huwag natin silang kalimutan. A reminder from the ASC and Foundation, the KBP, and this network.
Mga mommies, gawing all-in-wonderful ang tortang talong. With Maggi Magic Sarap, may sarap at aroma ng dagdag onion at garlic, real meat at spices. With Maggi Magic Sarap, nasa kamay mong sarap ng buhay.
A majority of people 50 years and above suffer from poor eyesight. For state-of-the-art facilities and affordable eyewear, go to EO.
Bilis ka, no?
Love your eyes.
The Philippines is touted as having the most expensive power rates in Southeast Asia. This may be attributed to the heavy reliance of local energy generation on imported fossil fuels. Energy experts contend that the burden on consumers will be lightened over the long term if the Energy Regulatory Commission will stop power producers from automatically passing fluctuating fossil fuel costs in their contracts.
Automatic fuel pass-through is a provision in power purchase agreements which allows producers to pass on changes on fuel prices to end users. This provision removes the fuel risk from power producers and guarantees returns on their investment with very minimal risk. Consumers are faced with ballooning electric bills every time the prices of fossil fuels go up.
Without this clause, fossil fuel plants will no longer enjoy unfair advantage over other technologies, which are subject to fixed prices. Power producers and distributors will be encouraged to look for alternative power sources. Manufacturers, for example, cannot automatically pass on increases of their inputs such as raw material costs to consumers. They have to consider market competition. Why should power producers be treated differently?
The energy landscape will be transformed from a centralized generation system dominated by large baseload coal plants utilizing imported fuels to a distributed and flexible power system utilizing indigenous and clean energy. Transitioning to renewable energy, which are also indigenous, will lower the prices and will also provide stable prices for our consumers.
Once the playing field is leveled, it will open up the doors for more renewable energy players and even to prosumers, i.e. consumers who produce their own power, diversifying the local energy mix and offering affordable and sustainable electricity options for all Filipinos.
Sa loob ng maraming taon, ang ABS-CBN News at ang pamilyang Pilipino magkatwang sa pagpapatrol sa bayan. At ngayong halalan 2022, andito tayo muli para sa isa't isa. Ngayong May 9 at 10, buong puwersa tayong maglilingkod mula sa iba't ibang sulok ng bansa. Tutukan ang mga pinakamaiinit na balita online sa live streaming ng ating marathon coverage sa ABS-CBN News YouTube channel at sa abscbnnews.com. Tuloy-tuloy din ang pagpapatrol sa telebisyon sa Teleradyo ANC, a Pamilya Channel A to Z at TFC. Isang pamilya tayong magbabantay sa tuloy-tuloy na pagbabalita umaga hanggang gabi. Halalan 2022, the ABS-CBN News Special Coverage. Ano man ang say at hugot nyo sa mga isyong kinakaharap ng ating bayan,
ang tagal nating hinihintay ito at naging kontrobersyal pa nga.
Ito, pwede mong i-share yan. Ang dami-daming anggulo, mga usapan at panayam na may tamang lalim at saya. Dito mo mapapakinggan.
That's the energy nila.
Sabi ko naman sa'yo, huwag kang magkakape. Kaya sakay na sa relatable at makabuluhang usapan kasama ang unstoppable witty tandem ni na Peter Musngi.
Kailangan po namin ng pwedeng magbigay linaw.
Rica Lazo.
Palabasin yung mga iglesia ninyo kamahirap intindihin, ha?
Sa Pasada sa Teleradyo. Lunes hanggang Biyernes, alas 5 ng hapon sa nag-iisang Teleradyo.
The biggest news, the most compelling stories, and issues
Nagbabalik ang COMELEC KBP Pilipinas Forum 2022. Sisimulan natin ang forum na ito sa presyo ng mga bilihin at kahirapan. Ang ating unang tanong ay manggagaling kay Ed Lingao. Ed.
Hi sir, good day to you at thank you for joining us today. Sir, ang sabi kasi ng marami, in the end, madidistill mo lahat ng plataforma into bulsa at bilihin. I mean, dikit-dikit naman lahat. Pero sa huli, ano mo mabibili mo at ano makakain mo.
Correct.
Ngayon po, I know you talked about turning agriculture into a mega industry, but I'd like to ask for particulars and specifics. How do you intend to empower the peso of the ordinary Filipino and to also as well to bring down the prices of basic goods? Yun po, basically ganun po. Anong inyong plano, whether with proposals for the legislature or executive action?
Well, among other things talaga, Ed, is it's very important to understand that we have leakage, financial leakages. For example, in terms of corruption, corruption. We lose about something like 700 billion pesos to corruption every month. So one of the first things we'd like to do within the first 100 days is to be able to, for example, make sure that corrupt government officials are effectively penalized. I mean, yun talaga effect. I mean,
everybody would agree with you on that. All the candidates would agree with you on that.
Of course. On the other,
how would you do it, sir?
But of course, it's a process, and that will have to be done. But it will be done. It should be addressed within the first 100 days. Okay. So yun, isa yan. And then also the other thing is to be able to make sure that we katulad ng yung tawag nito, yung to be able to make sure that within yung mga policies na which need urgent, like for example, making sure that everything that, for example, businesses that are urgent and priority, not projects that are urgent priority, should be, as long as their necessary requirements are given, should be given their within the first 100 days. Dapat ma-release yung kanilang mga Tsaka the other one is if we can again urgently review lahat ng mga pending na hindi na-address ng mga polisiya, mga project, at dapat maantawayan na kagad yan.
Maliwanag na ba, Secretary, sa inyo, just in case kayo ang maging Pangulo? Ano yung mga immediate executive orders na ilalabas niyo related to bulsa at bilihin?
Basically, katulad na sinabi ko yun. Number one, make sure that ma-review kaagad natin kung ano yung mga polisiya na hindi pa na that need to be reviewed very currently. For example, yung mga projects na among other things, for example, yung mga for example, renewables, everything, the energy, for example.
Kuryente, for example, sir, di ba?
That's right.
If you don't mind, i-direct ako doon. Sir, problema natin na presyo ng kuryente.
Right.
We're among the highest, if not highest in the region. And that affects everything else.
Correct.
Yung presyo at yung panggastos mo. So, anything you have in mind for that?
Of course, kailangan we need to be able to source our renewables, no? Dapat mabigyan pansin, maantabayanan, and we should have a very clear focus on making sure that we have that yung ating alternatives, so for example, the renewable wind turbine and wind turbine and solar should be given exact attention as soon as possible so that we can address that. And also we're of course a little bit alanganin tayo sa, for example, nuclear because of certain political implications, pero we're open to discussing that.
Secretary, again sa kuryente. Ako ay taga Camarines Sur. 10 hours, 11 hours, 15 hours sa isang araw, 3 beses sa isang linggo. 2 dekada na yan, Secretary. Ano ang pagkakaiba ho ninyo sa pagbibigay ng solusyon dito?
Okay, number one, I'm not that familiar with CAMSUR. But let me just ask, for example, why exactly is it being held up?
It's basically cooperative. Isang problema ngayon sa kuryente sa buong bansa, yung electric cooperative mismanagement, and of course other than resources. Pero kayo, saan kayo naiiba rito? Anong solusyon ho ninyo para mawalan ito, mabawasan itong mga brownout na ito? Happening not only in Luzon, including Visayas and Mindanao.
Patungan ko na rin, sir, kasi problema rin sa Mindanao yung brownout eh.
Correct. No, the thing is, katulad yan, what did I do? I asked him exactly why. Because I cannot just be mouthing solutions of
then I said mismanagement.
Correct.
Resources.
In which case, there must be a very quick review of what is happening in terms exactly of what mismanagement is all about. And that should be given first priority, especially within the first 100 days.
Alright, pag-usapan naman natin ang trabaho, kabuhayan at negosyo ng mga Pilipino. So kawing pa rin to sa mga topics natin earlier on. At ang ating unang tanong ay manggagaling naman kay Cesar Chavez. Hi, Cesar.
Thank you, Sean. Secretary, binanggit ninyo ang Pilipinas ay maswerte sapagkat nakatadhana tayo ng maraming kayamanan. Pero at the same time, binanggit ho ninyo na 23 to 26 million people, Filipinos, living below poverty incidence. Pero pag-usapan muna natin yung sweldo, 537 pesos. Ang sweldo araw-araw, Secretary. Ang tanong ko ay dalawa, rolled into one. Ano ang magiging executive action ninyo? Kasamang legislative agenda, kung mayroon man isa, dalawa, nagagawin ho ninyo first 100 days.
We did the first 100 days, of course, and plan. Immediately, of course, yung mga ayuda has to be rolled out.
All right.
That's already taken for granted. But the other one is talaga, what we need is to be able to set the foundations for, katulad na sinasabi kong, ano tawag dito, mega industry, for example. we can come up with one of the agriculture as a mega industry. One among other things, what we'd like to do is to be able to partner, let's say, with IPs in order to be able to make sure that, for example, we can effectively come into a partnership with them so that we can have plantations for trees, fruit, timber, so that magkaroon tayo ng not just opportunities for jobs but also opportunities for businesses. So these are among other things that we have lined up.
Secretary, reporter pa lang ako 1987.
Yes.
Lagi nang hinihingi yung pagtataas ng sweldo. Taon-taon ho yan, May 1. Kayo ho, ano ang policy framework ko ninyo?
Basically, if you're asking me, we should give fair wages. Fair wages. I was talking with
collective bargaining agreement or legislative?
It has to be both. It has to result from a conversation. Pag-usapan natin kung ano talaga ang pupwede. And when I say pag-usapan, I mean, for example, one of the things that what was being suggested to me yesterday was very recently was that, for example, if you give a fair level minimum wage all over the nation, then you could decongest the city kasi magtatakbuhan sila sa baba. Of course, what you need to do is I don't know if you can immediately do that, but maybe you can transition just as long as, for example, one of the things that we could do is, for example, transfer, for example, encourage domestic tourism, apart from domestic tourism, ecotourism, so that you could have a more robust hospitality industry in the provinces. Especially kung saan medyo mas neglected, maganda nga pero wala nga mga negosyo, so we could develop stuff like that. And or, for example, when we develop agricultural industry, we could also develop yung the health and wellness aspect. Like, for example, we could actually, one of the most successful businesses right now is this mangosteen thing. And the bitter herbs. Hindi lang pinapansin yung mga ganun, but we could actually scale that up and make sure that there are jobs, and not just automated jobs, but actually jobs for many people, including design, creativity, and planting.
How do you plan, Yasek, to make it trickle down though? Kasi usually, larangan pa rin yan ng big business. And when you speak about big industries, sila nga normally yung magda-dominate. Pero pag nagda-dominate yung big industries, kalimitan, na-ignore na yung mga nasa baba.
Thank you for pointing that out, Sean. Actually we want to bypass, quote-unquote, big business. Kasi big business naman and big pharma are not interested they're interested in other things, no? I don't know about big pharma, but for example, most of the really big names are interested more in real estate and the capitals market. Pero if we want to go, for example, we want to improve, for example, micro, small, and medium enterprises, especially the micro and small. Kumbaga, for example, there is this particular, I go back to mangosteen, no? May isang mangosteen manufacturer. He's been doing very well, but I think his problem is scaling up. That is where, for example, our government could be able to come in and help micro and small businesses scale up when they actually need additional capital na. So, going back to your question, how do we do that? Gusto natin pagbigyan tuon ang micro, small, and medium enterprise, especially the micro and especially the small.
Pero sir, I think all administrations have made that same declaration that they want to help small and medium scale enterprise. I remember nung late 80s yung Kalakalan 20 ni Oscar Orbos, kaya siya sumikat at ginawang executive secretary ni Cory, was because Kalakalan was supposed to beef up the SMEs.
I think the missing point was the political will to be able to carry that out. Now, since I really come from that kind of background, that's exactly what I'm going to be focusing on. I was talking with somebody who actually, I'm really considering him to be Secretary for Agriculture, no? Sabi ko sa kanya, bakit interesado ka sa tawag nito, sa mga mahihirap? Malaking korporasyon na may management natin. Sabi niya, kasi sir, nakaranas kasi ako ng gutom at nakita ko ang gutom. So there is a world of experience. For example, people can make all sorts of declarations, but at the end of the day, what is needed is a political will, and it comes out of vision. It comes out of the hugot. Saan ba nagagaling yung kanilang gusto mangyari?
Yung political will ay dapat may kaakibat na policy framework sa isang presidente. At kakailanganin mo ang both houses of Congress. Yung kalakalan 20 ni dating Congressman Oscar Orbos, former executive secretary, ang target noon ay hanggang sa komunidad. Is it political will ng presidente o political will ng lahat? Or concretely anong political will yan?
When I talk about political will, I mean talking about a more inclusive conversation, Cesar. No? For example, hindi lang tinutulak pa babae. Dapat kinakausap sila. And that's exactly what I've been doing. You know, I've been going around, people have been asking, for example, what kind of campaign do you hold? Sabi ko, basically, I engage in town halls. I talk with them, I go to them and said, ano iniba nyo, for example, with another presidential vote? Kasi they compare me, let's say, with another faith-based presidential vote. Sabi ko, we are not running on religion. We're running on, for example, we're running on we're running on strategies. And sabi ko, how many people have actually come down and sat with you and asked you what your problems are? And my commitment is I will listen to their solutions. In other words, what you really need, in order to form effective policies, is to actually have a healthy, robust conversations, even if they disagree with you, and even if they tell you, oh, you're BS.
Alright, sa susunod na parte naman ng ating forum, alamin natin kung ano ang plano ng ating mga kandidato para sa edukasyon at sa healthcare system ng bansa. Abangan natin yan sa pagbabalik ng COMELEC KBP Pilipinas Forum 2022.
Exodo, Kabanata 18, versikulo 21. Ngunit pumili ka ng mga taong may kakayahan, may takot sa Diyos, mapagkakatiwalaan, at di masusuhulan. Gawin mo silang tagapangasiwa sa libo-libo, daan-daan, 5-50, at 10-10.
Ang mabuting balita ay hatid sa inyo ng MX3.
Sa darating na halalan, huwag niyo akong kalimutan!
Sa darating na halalan, huwag niyo kalimutan.
Sa darating na halalan, huwag niyo akong kalimutan.
Sa darating na halalan, huwag niyo akong kalimutan!
Sa boto mo, apektado ang buong bayan. Huwag natin silang kalimutan. A reminder from the ASC, Ad Foundation, the KBP, and this network.
Mga mommies, gawing all-in-wonderful ang tortang talong. With Maggi Magic Sarap, may sarap at aroma ng dagdag onion at garlic, real meat at spices. With Maggi Magic Sarap, nasa kamay mong sarap ng buhay.
Yun ang pinaka-importante, no? Ang pagpapahalaga sa buhay. Kapag merong pagpapahalaga sa buhay, lahat ng magiging aksyon niya para sa ikabubuti nga ng nakakarami. Ako si Norman Magbiop, isa akong manggagamot. Pangarap ko sa Pilipinas, walang namamatay na hindi man lang nakita ng isang doktor or nurse. Boboto tayo para sa future, no? So, mag-set ng criteria, maging mapanure kung papasa ba dun sa criteria na yon, piliin kung sino yung pumasa at iboto. At sana manalo yung karapat-dapat. Importante na merong integridad yung iboboto natin. Hindi lang basta leader yun servants, no? So servant leaders yun. Hindi sila yung pinagsisilbihan, no? Sila yung nagsisilbi para sa bayan.
Mabubuting katangian ng Pilipino. Gabay natin sa pagboto.
All right, we're back.
Join David Celdran.
We were lucky to have filmed in South America and Europe, plus some new ones now that destinations in the Philippines are starting to open up.
Marie Lozano. And Martin Rivera.
Expect the unexpected as we talk to some of your favorite people and turn their long stories into short stories.
As all new episodes of Executive Class, Cityscape, and LSS The Martin Rivera Show return on a new time slot. Only here on ANC.
The biggest news, the most compelling stories, and issues that matter to you. Top Story, Monday to Saturday at 5 p.m. here on ANC.
Kung gusto mong ngumiti, tumawa at kumanda ang umaga, dito na tumutok every morning.
Gawin itong mas special.
Galaw-galaw at sama-sama tayong makibalita at magkwentuhan. Saktong balitang hatid. May bonus pa tips na mahalaga sa buong pamilya. Meron ding masayang interactive games, gifts at surprises na kaaaliwan ng buong barkada.
Tamang timpla sa inyong mga umaga.
Kaya samahan na ang pambansang millennial plantita, siyang Ami Perez.
Let's celebrate love.
Forever fresh na new si Jeff Canoy.
Sagot na namin yung mga impormasyong inyong mga pakinabangan.
At ang nagbabalitang Daddy Johnson Manabat.
Isabay po ninyo kami sa inyong umagahan
Sa Sakto, Lunes hanggang Biyernes, alas 6 ng umaga sa nag-iisang Teleradyo.
Our numbers are already up there. And to engage in challenging debates and interviews will only pull your numbers down. Is that your strategy? Is that your plan? What do you tell then those people who don't have the same resources as you have to evade arrest? How can you lead the country when you can't or couldn't even keep the party together? Why should there be a place for you still? You said it yourself. You've had 3 terms.
Your no-nonsense noontime news fix on ANC. Dateline Philippines with Carmina Constantino. Weekdays at 12 noon. Only on ANC. The latest news and information you get on radio, TV, and the internet are now in the ABS-CBN Radio Service app. Stream anytime, anywhere with BZMM Radio Patrol. Plus different podcast content from ABS-CBN News and the ABS-CBN News channel. Download the ABS-CBN Radio Service app now. Available on Google Play Store and Apple App Store. Protect yourself during an earthquake. Duck, cover, and hold. Stay away from windows, light fixtures, or furniture that may fall on you. Get under a sturdy table and hold on until the shaking stops. If you're outdoors, stay away from trees, electrical wires and poles, and other structures that may collapse. If you're driving, pull over to a shoulder. Don't attempt to cross a bridge or overpass. When in a coastal area, move quickly to higher ground. Monitor the news. Arm yourself with information. A friendly reminder from ANC. The biggest news. The most compelling stories.
Nagbabalik ang COMELEC KBP Pilipinas Forum 2022. Kasama pa rin po natin si Presidential Candidate Ernesto Abella at ang ating mga panelists na sina Ed Lingao at ng One News at Cesar Chavez ng DZRH. Ngayon naman ay pag-uusapan natin ang edukasyon. Ang ating unang tanong ay manggagaling kay Ed Lingao. Ed.
So, a few months ago, naglabas ng study yung UNESCO, UNICEF at yung World Bank showing na out of every 10 Filipino children, isa lamang ang kaya magbasa ng simpleng teksto at maunawaan ng teksto na yun. And I think that doesn't even already include yung effects ng pandemic kasi even before that may ganun na Pero let's boil it down to that. What do you have in mind to beef up our educational system to make sure that the other 9 are able to catch up?
Yeah, well, thank you for asking that, Ed. No? Unang-una talaga, I believe, since we're not, English is not our mother tongue, and we have other dialects, no? I really suggest that first 3-4 years should be done in mother tongue. Kesyo Bisaya, kesyo this, kesyo that. So that they get a grasp of principles. Prinsipyo yung una.
May baseline.
May baseline. Pati dapat naiintindihan. Lalo sa, kahit 3 hours lang reading, writing, arithmetic. Lalo sa arithmetic. Hindi lang naiintindihan addition and subtraction. Kasi, wow, subtraction, that's a multi-million peso word, di ba? Pero pag dagdag, bawas, wow, that's a dangerous word. Ano ba yan? Addition, subtraction. Okay, ganun din. But anyway, basically, I think it should be done first and foremost sa mother tongue. Why? Because they need to understand the basic principles. Yung the basic learning principles, yung mga building blocks, importante talaga yan. The other thing, Ed, I believe that it's truly, truly important is to teach values as soon as possible. Not only that, pati, alam mo, ang kulang talaga kasi natin is a confident national identity. Alam mo, mo, walang sense. There's no sense of nationhood, of being Filipino. At medinjahe nga minsan pag Pilipino. Pati siyempre, kababasan lang ng mga libro, katitingin. Akala tuloy nila, dati blonde, ngayon dapat chinito. I mean, nagbago no? Pero hindi pa rin Pinoy. Dapat pango. So my point is, we need to be able to match education with our realities. And our realities are pretty basic. Kaya lang talaga, nasa nakita ko, ito akin na lang to. I'm really jumping to huge conclusions. But I really honestly think that much of our education is really intended to dumb down and to downskill our Filipinos so that we can send out low-skilled workers who will receive low-skilled pay.
But that was not the intention of the Congressional Education Commission during the 9th Congress. Remember the DECs, Hinate, TESDA, DepEd, CHED, National Commission on the Cultural and Philippine Sports Authority. Halos lahat yan ay gumana except the NCAA. Kayo, tumatakbo kayo bilang Pangulo. Ano ho ang cultural agenda ho ninyo na pwedeng i-translate into a legislative and executive order kapag kayo ay naging Pangulo?
Unang-una talaga dapat maituro history natin. Our history should really be taught. And
that should be taught in our mother tongue.
Yes.
To be consistent with your proposition.
It should be taught in mother tongue.
Okay.
Tapos saka na lang, tapos in a spiral way, paulit-ulit yan hanggang sa lumalim. For example, grade 1, ganito, grade 2, ganito, grade 3, ganito. Pero dapat matandaan na, alam ng bata, bakit walang snow dito? Bakit maitim tayo? Bakit hindi, yung mga ganong klase ba na, pati dapat hindi ikahihiya yung mga ganon. Pati, mga ganong klase, kasi nga, babantay, we're so cosmopolitan, we lost our sense of identity. Kailangan maisoli ang pagka-Pilipino. So that cultural identity, cultural values, mahalaga, kasama yan.
Sir, balikan ko lang yung sabi nyo kanina na, you have a feeling na the whole system is intended to dumb down yung output ng ating educational system. Could you talk more about that, and could you elaborate on your basis for saying that, because that kahit paano is a heavy hit on DepEd.
Well, no, not on DepEd.
On the system as well.
On the system, on general system. Una-una kasi talaga, kung pag-iisipan mo, Filipinos are smart, guys. We know exactly what to do. We know. Ano tayo, piling-pili tayo sa buong mundo. But on the other hand, bakit yung ating mga economic policies tend to, for example, bakit tayo, ang tanong na ordinaryong tao, how come we import rice? We can grow rice. How come we import fish? We can grow fish. And how come, for example, our people are so smart, how come they don't, for example, sinabi ko, they don't, only one out of 10 goes on to...
1 out of 10 lang ang kayang magbasa ng simpleng teksto.
Correct. And so, can you imagine how many go on to high school, to secondary? So, going back, I believe there is, unang-una talaga, we have been, educationally, kasi pwede ma-address yan Educationally, it can be addressed. But I think what has happened is that there is, I'm sensing ko, there is a tendency to make sure that we are not too well-versed in critical thinking, but more geared towards mechanical working. Something more low-skilled. And then, importable ka na. Like, for example, the other thing that's also slowly being killed, it seems by benign neglect, is agriculture. Because the subsidy, say, wag na tayo magkuha ng bigas, ng palay, kasi we can always import, mas mura pa. That seems to be the thinking. In other words, we're becoming part of this global value chain. We're becoming part of this global value chain, and slowly we just fit in. It's like being a frog. We're like a frog being boiled slowly, and wala tayong ginagawa about it. So what I'm saying is, somebody needs to say, hey, this has got to stop, guys.
The inconvenient truth.
Okay, lipat naman tayo sa usapan ng healthcare at COVID-19 pandemic. Ang ating unang tanong ay manggagaling kay Cesar Chavez. Cesar.
Secretary, 53 na mga bansa ang pinag-aralan ng Bloomberg. At lumilitaw na tayo ang pinakapalpak batay sa pag-aaral nila. Pinaka-lowest tayo. Saan tayo nagkamali? At kung kayo ang Pangulo, sapagkat tuloy-tuloy pa rin naman ang pandemyang ito, anong executive order na gusto namin makita mula sa inyo?
Let me put it this way, let's just begin that I will not put it in the terms of palpak.
All right.
Because what they did was according to their best lights. They acted according to their best lights. But what I would do, for example, I would still do the standard thing. Number one, free mass testing. 3 months testing. As dapat cover dyan. Pangalawa, precision lockdown if and when necessary. And thirdly, ang dapat binibilang, hindi naman COVID cases ang dapat mabilang, adverse reactions and mortality rates. Na kung saan doon na mataas ang kamatayan, di doon na pag-aralan. Pero just, because I think we need to be, where are we coming from? Let's learn to live with this. Let's learn to live with the pandemic. Let's learn to live with COVID-19. Let's make, it can be downgraded to disease number 2 typhoid, cholera, and parang cholera lang siya, or dengue. It's there, but we can live with it.
Dagdag ako na konting context. Kaya tayo ay pinakamababate sa kanilang pag-aaral dahil maaaring walang playbook within the next 3 months mula noong March 2020, pero inabot tayo ng 2 taon, 1 taon, 2 taon. Naging mabagal ang mga desisyon ng gobyerno. Ano ho yun?
Well, basically, I think and without putting blame, I think we can say that, katulad na nangyayari, let's say, sa ating neighbor who want zero COVID, massive lockdowns don't exactly work. That's why I'm suggesting precision lockdowns, and only if and when necessary.
So targeted lockdowns.
Targeted lockdowns, and only when there are high mortality rates. Kaso kasi, this is stepping on other ground. No? Pero based on the report, based on several reports, some of the highest death rates resulted from when the vax was rolled out. So there are two schools of thought regarding that. So that's why I'm saying, check the adverse reaction, check the mortality rate, and make sure that we don't just lock down, because we need the face-to-face. After all, our people are micro, small, and medium enterprise people. People need to have face-to-face. Kailangan makipagnegosyo. Paano kang bibenta ng siopaw kung hindi naman pwede i-online yung siopaw?
What about your plan, sir? Yeah, for
let me
basic...
talk about, you were saying something like, the higher death rates were during the vaccination.
Well, apparently, there's a report out there that when the vaccines were rolled out in March 2021, the death rate spiked. And if kung susundan mo kung saan naman nag-down, I think, basta pwedeng sundan kasi, it's not directly, this is not saying it's directly correlated, but there seems to be some sort of correlation.
Yes, sir, but of course, it could be cause and effect, but it could also be an effect, and this is the cure. I mean, you could possibly look at it that way na mataas ang death rates, that's why they rolled out vaccinations all the more.
Actually,
there are 2 ways of looking at that.
Actually, nag-start ang COVID sa atin noong 2020, tama? And the death rates were not noticeable. The death rates remained more or less normal, within the normal range. But when the vax was rolled out, it looks like there was also a spike.
Is that your opinion, Secretary? Sapagkat gumaganyan tayo, tapos tumaas yung ating...
That's not my opinion, that's just my observation.
Secretary, bakunado na ho ba kayo?
I have natural immunity.
What does that mean, sir? You acquired COVID already?
Actually, I acquired COVID.
But scientists say that that's not enough. In fact, they say that the hybrid immunity is the better kind of immunity.
Well, there are several schools of thought regarding that. But on the other hand, I seem to be surviving pretty well.
All right, we'll just pause for a short break at ipagpapatuloy natin ang usapan sa ating pagbabalik.
Exodus 18:21. But you choose from the people capable men, God-fearing men, men of truth, those who hate bribes, and put them over the people as rulers of thousands, rulers of hundreds, rulers of 50s, and rulers of 10s.
Ang mabuting balita ay hatid sa inyo ng MX3.
Sa darating na halalan, huwag niyo akong kalimutan!
Sa darating na halalan, huwag niyo kalimutan.
Sa darating na halalan, huwag niyo akong kalimutan.
Sa darating na halalan, huwag niyo akong kalimutan.
Sa boto mo, apektado ang buong bayan. Huwag natin silang kalimutan. A reminder from the ASC, Ad Foundation, the KBP, and this network.
Ngayong halalan 2022, andito tayo kasama ang mga katuwang sa paglilingkod at pagbabantay at paghahatid ng mga pinakahuling pangyayari sa ating bayan. Andito ang bagong henerasyon ng mas mapanuring mga kabataan. Andito ang mga kasama sa pagtataguyod ng maunlad na kabuhayan. Andito ang mga pinagkakatiwalaan sa pagbabantay ng kaayusan. Andito ang mga kasamahan sa paghahatid ng tamang impormasyon sa bawat tahanan. Andito tayo sa mas pinalakas na sama-samang paglilingkod ngayong halalan 2022.
Kailangan ng isang leader ay nakasentro doon sa tunay na paglilingkod para sa interes talaga ng nakararami. Ako si Michael Andrada, isa akong guro at mananaliksik mula sa Universidad ng Pilipinas. Nung bata ako, tumakay ako ng jeep, tapos may nakasabay ako ng mga estudyante. Tapos pagkapasok nila, ang luwag-luwag talaga ng jeep. Pagpasok nila ay nagkandong sila automatically. Tapos nagbayad sila ng pamasahe para sa isang tao. Kaya kapag tinatanong ako ng mga ganito, para kanino ka boboto. Bumoboto ako para doon sa mga marginalized sector, mga katutubo, sa mga walang tinig, hindi makaboto at walang boses. Pangarap ko talaga merong tunay na kalayaan, tunay na pagbabago sa Pilipinas, no? Merong patas na karapatan at mas maginhawa ang mga mamamayan.
Mabubuting katangian ng Pilipino. Gabay natin sa pagboto.
When it comes to driving fast and looking good on the road, the luxury sports car is king. These certainly deserve a spot in any executive's garage. This week on Rev, we take a look at 3 stylish speedsters that exemplify what this segment is all about. From exceptional Japanese workmanship, timeless Italian styling, and forward British innovation, fasten your seatbelts, this one's all about speed and style. Watch Rev, only here on ANC.
The biggest news, the most compelling stories, and issues that matter to you. Top Story, Monday to Saturday at 5 p.m. here on ANC.
Mga balitang hume-headline.
Makinig sa mga panayam dahil kailangan 5.6 GDP.
Kinakalap ng mga patrol ng Pilipino mula Luzon.
Ako po si Tony Velasquez. At ako si Johnson Marabat.
Pina-trending ng netizen headline sa lagay ng panahon.
Visayas.
Trending sa Visayas.
Sa Mindanao.
Yes, sa mga notisya sa Mindanao.
Ibabalita sa Headline Pilipinas. Lunes hanggang Biyernes, alas 12 ng tanghali sa nag-iisang teleradyo.
Take the lead even when on the go. Keep abreast of the latest news and information with the ABS-CBN News app. Receive news alerts. Audio stream DZMM. and customize your news feed. All these and
Nagbabalik ang COMELEC KBP Pilipinas Forum 2022. At kasama pa rin po natin si Presidential Candidate Ernesto Abella. Ipagpapatuloy natin ang ating usapan sa healthcare. Ed, may tanong ka.
Sir, balikan ko lang yung kanina pag-usapan natin. If you do become president,
I'm sorry.
well, okay. Pero sir, whatever the case is, if you do step into Malacanang, kasagsagan yun ng programa ng bakunahan ng gobyerno. But on the other hand, the impression I'm getting is that you're not exactly a proponent of vaccinations. Sabi nga ninyo, natural immunity ang inyong inaasahan. So, saan pupunta yung vaccination program ng gobyerno? Will you pursue it? Will it not be as encouraged anymore?
No, well, let's put it this way. Again, let me go back to my 4 bottom lines. No? Una, people's welfare. Secondly, planet. And third, of course, revenue and then purpose. Unang-una, tingnan natin ang epekto sa mga tao. At the end of the day, kasi the issue at hand is whether vaccination. I know it's an old trope, no? Yeah. It's already used trope, but while it is still experimental, the option should be available. It's not yet fully assured. It's not yet fully assured.
And the option is?
And the option is you can opt out. You can opt not to be vaccinated. Mm-hmm. On the other hand, there are two actually there's only one real vulnerable sector, and that is the adult, and that is the senior people. They should be cared for. Their immune system should be boosted. And and the other thing, of course, regarding healthcare though, and it is stepping one step aside from COVID-19, is to make sure that children within the first 1,000 days of their life should be cared for properly and given proper nutrition. Otherwise, we will have a more stunted population. And by the way, we already have the most stunted population in ASEAN. It used to be Indonesia, but now this is the Philippines. We have the smallest kids, we have the smallest brains, and the small brain, small mind, it's almost correlated.
That's what I wanted to ask you, Sec. Healthcare, even before the pandemic, here in the country was dismal. Access to it is almost impossible. Some people, kahit they can afford naman, it's just not available. How do you plan to bring healthcare out? You mentioned kanina you wanted to bump up agriculture and domestic tourism. How can we do that when the healthcare system is, sorry to say, it's very much lacking? And another thing is, kasi, di ba, bago ka mag-aral, bago ka makapagtrabaho, kailangan malusog ka. It's very basic.
Correct. No, I totally agree with your malusog idea. And if there's anything at all that we should really take care of, is precisely our youth, no? Make sure that they're properly fed, properly nourished. I mean, I tend to listen to the words of Minu Shafiq, the current head of London School of Economics. Lagi sinasabi, dapat alagaan natin ang nasa primary at saka yung senior. Those who are starting off and those who are in the golden years. Dapat pangalagaan talaga natin yon. And how do we do that? By making sure that they're given all the proper nutrition, health care, especially in both ends, parang binubuk end. Tapos, kung kahit na libre yan, yun nasa gitna, yun ang magbabayad.
Alright, dumako naman tayo sa iba pang mga issues, sir?
Secretary, ang Pangulo ay nagdesisyonan na putulin yung isabong at sinundan na yan. Timely ho ba ang desisyon niya o mabagal ang desisyon ng ating Pangulo?
Ay, yung patungkol sa isabong.
Isabong ho.
Ang masasabi ko dyan siguro is dapat may alternative. Bigyan din natin ng alternatibo yung nahinto ng isabong. Alam mo, katulad kahapon, naglalakad ako sa doon ako sa may bandang malapit sa Luneta. People think it's part of everyday life. And I can also understand where they're coming from.
Secretary, from the start ng programa ito, you've been mentioning increased conversation
yes.
With people para kasama sila sa decision-making process. Kung kayo ang maging Pangulo at narinig nyo na ang mga balita na maraming nagpakamatay, maraming nalugi, maraming nasira ang buhay, OFW Pilipino dahil sa isabong, gaano kayo katagal magdidesisyon?
Let's put it this way. Within, when you see a reasonable balance, then we should act. So for example, katulad yan, I would take off from where the president has made the decision now. Kung hininto niya, dihinto natin, tuloy-tuloy natin.
Ang gusto nyo ay may iba pang alternatibo na
Hindi po. Ang sinasabi ko na decision na yan, tutuloy natin yan. Tapos ang gagawin natin, bibigyan of course natin ng options para may magawang matino yung mga apektado.
Such as po, Sec? Ano pong alternative?
More jobs. For example, alam mo isang dapat kasi talaga dapat lifelong learning. I can understand, I can almost empathize with the people who are doing it. Kung wala ka na talagang makikita sa buhay mo, wala kang option, wala kang alternatibo, then maybe this is one, yung mga stabs in the dark so that meron kang makita man lang. So my point is this, if we are able to generate enough, for example, enough options, enough alternatives, employment and business opportunities for these people, why not? We can actually help them. Like for example, going back, alam mo yung mga bags na Divisoria bags? Yung Divisoria bags na
yung Louis Vuitton na
yung naging Louis Vuitton, di ba?
Bayong Shaga.
Anong tawag niya?
Bayong Shaga.
Ilabas mo, sorry.
Katulad, what I mean to say is, I had somebody is close to me who actually began to recycle plastics and began to, pwede magawa kasi, pwede talaga magawa ng paraan. Kulang lang talaga ng tao, motibo tsaka modelo. And this is what we'd like to be able to propose, and I'd like to bring it up here, hindi nyo na itatanong. Meron tayong proposal sana for a National Volunteer Corps. The National Volunteer Corps between ages 18 to 35, or increasingly kahit na 45 later. This would act like a local Peace Corps, like a domestic Peace Corps. They help in, for example, in education, community building, reforestation, replanting of and also in building up new business opportunities. There are ways and means. There are many, many ways of doing it. We don't have to, ang nangyari kasi sa atin, we are brown people, but we're trying to put on white mental skills. Hindi bagay.
At bago tayo magtapos, bibigyan namin kayo ng 2 minuto para sagutin ang ating huling tanong. Ano ang magiging tatak ng administrasyon mo?
Ang magiging tatak is siglo Pilipino. We want a Philippine century. It is a century of a peaceful economic rise of the Philippines. And isang tatak nito is, I'm like somebody asked, you're independent. How do you want, sabi ko, I'm willing to work with anybody. But more so, God willing, put as president, I would continue a lot of the good things that the president has done. And I would talk to the next one and say, let's do it this way. And then the third one, if we could establish a train, a policy train, a way, perspective, na kung the next several presidents to be able to build a solid foundation for the peaceful economic rise of the Philippines. Yes, siglo Filipino. And if we did that, and with the participation of our mga kababayan natin, we could have a nation that is worthy of the Philippines. And Filipinos worthy of our nation.
Alright, maraming salamat, Ernesto Obelia.
Ernie.
Thank you, Sec.
Maraming salamat, Ernie Obelia. Muli, ako si Sean Yao ng One News, kasama ang ating mga panelists na sina Ed Lingao ng One News at Cesar Chavez ng DZRH. Ito ang COMELEC KBP Forum 2020.